I know. I've done a couple of these already over the last couple of weeks, but hey, they are fun and they're different, folks. Plus, there is a lot of really cool stuff to see in it all, regardless. So, from old looks of familiar characters to a glimpse or two into the possibilities of unique, constant environments, perhaps, let us come together to see what could have been and perhaps just appreciate what we got. Let's get to it. Because for one thing, I certainly couldn't see William Carter, aka Maxwell, being some creepy old dude like he apparently almost was. But I mean, I guess we got sort of close to this idea once we encounter him later on in adventure mode, but the final style works best, I think. Clearly, or we wouldn't be talking here today. They do seem, though, to have had his look down pat from the start, which is neat. But would you look at this, everyone? Just incredible. Early concept art depicting an eventual Willow walking by broken pirate ships, flying high in the sky, braving the never-ending cold, and diving deep into the bowels of spider hell. Now, we have seen the top right image before, and pointed out how a hot air balloon is how our survivors would eventually reach Hamlet. But what about the rest of them? Does the top left lead to shipwreck down the line? Was Don't Starve nearly an Arctic survival game? Were caves going to be the only place to encounter the arachnids at first? Who knows? But I just love these sort of things. Hence this video. And to my pleasure, and hopefully yours, it just keeps giving. A lava environment with golem-type elemental creatures, and even a lava monster itself. Bridges for bloody heck, and yet we still can't even bridge gaps with nothing but a floating wood circle after all these years. Whack-a-rabbit with a far more important wolf in the background, which could very well have just led to the hounds, mind you. Early tall bird concepts, messages in a bottle in the ground, set piece things perhaps like Stonehenge, and even an owl. And I like owls, so now I want owls and Don't Starve, dang it. We can also see the Willow stand-in staring off into the distance at another island of sorts, her trapping deer in a cave, which is interesting, an early look at meat effigies, if indeed that is what they were actually going to be back then, some strange looking rocks or something with what look like eyes behind that very piece of paper itself, but more intriguing is a look at the desert environment at the bottom left there. Unique trees that we've seen before, yes, but an antlion type creature before Antlion herself became a big bad, which is cool. Scorpions, which of course made their way to Don't Starve Hamlet. A well, and even a character concept not seen anywhere else, at least not in what I found. Very cool. But you know what really wouldn't have been cool? Howl hounds. These likely just became vargs down the road, but could you imagine just beefy hounds spawning in and running at you, looking for nothing but to rip your bloody face off? That would have been something, that's for certain. Oh, and so would have all these folks. Hidden deep into these fun images lies this guy right here, with familiar faces, yes, but also a couple of other beefy mobs that could have been. Bacoons, a humanoid cat-like creature that perhaps evolved, or maybe devolved actually, into catcoons, and another ape-like creature that very likely became the great apes of Don't Starve Hamlet. Very cool. Oh, and a more humanoid gobbler-looking thing, which obviously looks strange, and a pawn chess piece to boot. Very cool times two. But why should solo Don't Starve get all the fun here? Let us see what plans Clay had for one of the biggest bads around, Toadstool. The King of the Frogs went through numerous renditions, it seems, and a lot of them had his eyes on his mushroom cap, which of course is not exactly how he'd end up. That said, they certainly had the whole mushroom connection down, and even just the look of him flowing well from the get-go, and some of these are just abominations in like the best way possible, if you know what I mean. But they definitely went the more tamer route at the end of the day once he would release, but still, it's all very cool to see. Oh, and it even looks like they almost updated the look of their frogs of the Constant to perhaps have him spawn his own. But, as we know, that wouldn't come to pass, sadly. Oh well. And that's the thing about all this. Just because it didn't happen doesn't mean it won't become something later. Like with all this stuff here. We've seen plenty of this already. But to see a huge robot thing in pieces, giving off very much so WX-78 vibes is pretty neat. And lots of the debris, and heck, even the turf, really makes me think a little of the areas of the Gorge event, where lots of the broken structures and such can be found. I don't know, it's just a feeling I have. But to continue here, we have another very similar image that we see a wormhole that's literally just called The Hole, which is intriguing. Marble trees, evil flowers, statues, and more, all in their very early stages. Heck, they were even going to call prime apes of Shipwrecked Kikis back in the day. But let's start wrapping up here with a look into 2 character rework concepts, shall we? Starting with Woody here. Now, this lineup of potential looks of his were-moose form isn't the most exciting thing in the world. You can even see concept of plenty of his other were forms, but they weren't that compelling. However, this collection of images is, if anything, just for the bloody concept of a swimming were-moose, for Pete's sake, which is what I've been bloody talking about since the very first day of the Woody rework. My gosh, Clay even had the idea, but didn't quite follow through, folks. So we've been duped, everyone. But hey, at least we got Jesus Goose out of it. Oh, and how weird would it have been to be a literal deer on all fours, like at the top there. Yep, that would have been something. But moving on here, and chances are, you know exactly who we're getting at with just this image alone. The very first character to ever be reworked, Winona. And here we can see an early version of the Gemerator, which just looked to have gems floating in a tube at the start. And here we can see even more potentials with some wacky designs, I gotta say. And heck, Clay was maybe even thinking of implementing frazzled wires into some design or maybe even the recipe. However, I'm going to likely think that it was just a reference of some sort. But switching from the Gemerator to its smaller counterparts, we can see the obvious references to mere batteries over a more generator look, really. But add some color to it, and suddenly we've got something here. Now the bottom right is darn near the end result. But we almost got a potato generator, folks. We were just one step away from perfection then. But of course, then comes the spotlight, which actually didn't start out as a spotlight apparently, as it looks like Winona was just going to be able to build a literal lamppost of some sort. However, that likely made things a little too easy in Clay's mind, I'm sure. However, the creme de la creme of the Winona rework concept art is this guy right here, everyone. Sure, we see here catapults and her eventual spotlight. But is it just me, or is Bernie, or something very similar to him, firing frickin' lightning bolts out of his eyeballs? I mean, what the heck is that, Clay? And why is it not a thing? Bloody heck, that's cool. Let's speculate down below. But there you have it, everyone. Yet another look at much of the early concept art of not only Don't Starve, but Don't Starve Together as well. And it was a good one, I'd say. And believe it or not, there is still plenty more to see for yourself if you're not waiting for me. So, I'll be sure to direct you to it all down below. But thanks for watching, folks. Well wishes to all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.